I hope that this inspires you to maybe join your... Okay. Hey there, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Bethany Ellen. I'm a photographer based out of Cincinnati, Ohio, helping people realize their own potential, whether that is through the photos I take or the students I teach. And today, we're gonna talk about how to get started in photography competitions, which is something that I have had the pleasure, quote unquote, sometimes it feels like torture, being a part of, and it's something that has really, helped me become a better artist. And so we're gonna talk about the different types of competition. We're gonna talk about how to photograph for competition. We're gonna talk about things to kind of be aware of as you're taking your photo. So it should be a fun video. Come along, we'll see. So the first thing that you're gonna need to ask yourself when deciding to enter a photography competition is why. And it's okay if the why isn't like a big grand gesture. It's really okay. I just think it helps determine the what and the how going forward. So ask yourself why. Why do you want to compete? Is it a title? And let me just go ahead and put this disclaimer right here. It's okay to want a title. I think it's really weird when people try to play it cooler about earning a title and saying, well, it's not going to book you any clients, because I don't necessarily think that's the case. I also think it's really weird when people who have previously earned those titles start to complain like back in my day it was harder and now it's so easy to earn that title. I think that's really weird behavior, to be honest. It's okay to be driven, it's okay to have a goal, and it's okay to want a title. Are your clients searching for Grandmaster of WPPI near me? Are they searching for Master of Photography with Professional Photographers of America near me? Probably not. Those are internal titles that we get to be excited about and celebrate. They're not always going to make sense to clients, but they still have value in the fact that they are helping create and shape you into the artist that your clients want to hire. So it's not a bad thing to go ahead and go after them. Is it that you just want to be brave enough to be vulnerable to have your work critiqued? Because that is a big piece of competition that is really, really hard for people, right? There's a lot of rejection sensitivity. There's also just the feeling of purchasing a critique from a judge and having to listen to a judge sit there and talk over your work that you have spent gobs of amounts of time on and emotion, and you've sat and edited for however long, and listening to them talk makes you want to throw up. That's a level of growth and self-improvement that I think often gets overlooked with competitions. Maybe you have imposter syndrome and you just need something to prove to yourself that you are able to level up your own creativity. Maybe you're blocked creatively and you need an outlet to be able to just have for you. There's lots of reasons why people join competition, and it's not necessarily to earn clients. It's to better ourselves. And I think that we still need to be able to make time for that, even if we are buried in client work. I think we owe it to ourselves as artists and as people, and not robots, to be able to have something that feels a bit more just for me, right? And my clients can celebrate it, and my clients can really be excited. The fact of the matter is they don't necessarily know what's going on all the time. They just know that I'm working really hard for something, and they're happy to help celebrate me however they want, right? And however they can. And so a lot of times they're the ones who are modeling for me. They're the ones who are, sourcing kind of crazy materials if I need a weird prop. They're the ones who are cheering me on when I don't want to cheer me on anymore. And I think that there's some validity in that. So ask yourself, what am I looking for? Why do I want to compete? Because I think the answer could surprise you. Once you've asked yourself why, that will help determine what is the best use of your time and your money, right? So if your goal is to chase some kind of title, and again, maybe that's not sellable to clients, it is if you market it correctly, then you need to look at industry-specific competitions. Those are gonna push you really, really hard. They will kick your ass. I'm in the middle of Merit Image Review right now, and my ass, consider it kicked. It's a lot of really specific criteria, and the judges come down hard, right? And that's not just specific with Professional Photographers of America. Portrait Masters is equally as difficult. And a lot of people say that, the criteria doesn't make sense, or that you gotta remember, art is subjective, right? And so yes, it will push you into being a better artist. It will push you to understand lighting in a way that you've never understood lighting before. It will push you. But are you are you ready to be pushed, I guess is my question. Because I think I jumped in way too early and I got really, really discouraged really fast because I was just hitting no merit, no merit, no merit, no merit. And I wasn't really listening to why, because the critiques, I wasn't ready to be able to be critiqued on my own work. And if you're not ready, I don't think you're ready for that big level of competition, right? And that's okay. You'll get there. You'll get there. If you're looking to just have fun and be creative and just kind of do something that's a little different and not have to play with a paying client in front of you, maybe you want to even network a little bit with other photographers in your area, create something local. I used to have the most fun with some of my friends when I would go, we would all go to the thrift store, we would give ourselves like 30 minutes and $10. And we did it a couple different ways. Like, we bought our own things for $10, or sometimes we would buy each other's props for $10, and then we'd go back and we'd have a model meet us at the studio, and we each had 30 minutes to photograph with the model, and then, you know, we'd come up with our images like a week or so later. That was the most fun we ever had, where it was just like, what can we find in this crowded thrift store? What makes sense? What's gonna look good with the model? And one of my favorite images, I wonder if I can like put it in here, was I took it in, I think it's maybe it has my old logo on it, but she's got like a ghillie suit on. Like, I found a ghillie suit in one of the racks. Ugliest looking thing I've ever seen. It might have even been one of those sabotage challenges where it was like, just get something that throws off your other person. And I can't remember if my friend Alex Vonderhaar bought it or if I bought it, but it ended up looking stunning on her. And it was just so fun to be able to take something that you're like, oh God, what am I gonna do with this? And to be able to create something that insane from it definitely was so fun, and it had content for us to be able to show on our social medias. It also just like brought our networks together. They were kind of invested on like what we were gonna make next, and it was just something to talk about when I would go somewhere else and they'd be like, hey, I saw that thing you did, and I'd be like, thanks. And it was just something that kind of got me out of my box and let me have fun. There's tons of value in that, right? If you're looking to maybe kind of go to the next level, maybe you've kind of gone out of your norm creatively, but you see other people kind of leveling up their game and getting in magazines, and maybe you want to try, that is where local magazines, smaller publications are the absolute best thing for you. Let's say you're past kind of the local stuff, or maybe you've done quite a bit of the local creative challenges and you want something a little bigger. I remember in 2018 sitting at, well, FC Cincinnati didn't have a stadium then, so we were watching FC Cincinnati play in the college football arena called the Bailey, and my brother-in-law looked over at me and he just said, dude, your work needs to be in magazines. You don't need to be working for corporate tech for the rest of your life. And that was the first time anybody had said anything like that to me, and I kind of started to tear up, and I just started to look like, what local publications or what smaller publications can I start to submit to kind of ease my way into this, right? And that's where smaller publications, indie publications, are your best friend. That's going to be a different level of criteria than the super specific criteria that you're going to get from competitions industry-wise. But they still have criteria. They still have a brand voice. They still have things that they want out of specific photographers that are going to make sense to what they need and what you have. So it's not a bad idea to take a look at these smaller publications and see if you can submit and get your way in. And that's what I did for a long time, is I just looked at where can I submit that's not in Cincinnati, but is not like super, super big. And I was able then to be able to see, okay, this is magazine worthy, this is not. Like, you have to submit multiple times. They're not going to accept you every time, but when they do, it's really, really exciting, right? And then once I had gotten those under my belt, I started going for bigger magazines, like Behind the Shutter magazine, which does some of my favorite online education content here. So just like, seriously, not an ad, not sponsored, just go check them out. Which then led me to get some industry connections, right? So just kind of work your way up. If you're not ready to go there, that's fine. Ease yourself in. And I think you'll surprise yourself by, you know, what editors say about your work and what is exciting to them, which then helps you be able to submit to bigger publications as you go, right? And again, your network gets really, really excited when you get published. It's like, even though it doesn't feel like a big deal to you, and that might be your imposter syndrome talking, they get to celebrate and they're like, dude, my best friend was, like, my photographer was in a magazine. And again, it's not like it was people, but they're gonna treat it like it was people, and that's gonna feel really good to you. So a lot of people say, like, that's not gonna book you clients, but if you're playing your cards right, submitting to smaller and local publications helps with backlinks for SEO. It can help build your online audience, and it gets your current audience really engaged and excited because it's an accomplishment that they can celebrate. So it's about playing the game smartly. And finally, once we have, all of those under our belt and you think that photographing for industry-specific competitions makes sense, go for it. Again, it's gonna take a lot of trial and error. You're gonna find that that is the boot camp to becoming the better artist, right? That is gonna be where they have specific criteria they're looking for, and they are going to judge based on that criteria. And so sometimes boundary pushing is smart, sometimes it doesn't, land. And so it's going to take a lot of trial and error, but don't be afraid to purchase those critiques. So that way, if you're, really struggling with an image, you're able to have an exercise in sitting and being vulnerable while somebody talks about your art, which I hate doing. I hate it. It makes me want to scream, but it does create a better artist out of you. Or you can surprise yourself and see what merits. And I've had that a couple times where I'm like, there's no way that this is gonna go through. And then it ends up going through and you get really, really excited. And I had an image that I was like, there's for sure no way this is going through. And I sent it in, it went to PPA's Imaging Excellence collection, and it's now sitting on the Image Excellence book on my, my bar cart right now. And people pick it up and they're excited again. So it will push you to create those boundary pushing images that actually push the right boundaries, right? That then you can go home and create that same work for clients. It helps you create kind of off the wall concepts that you may not do with a client, but land really well at competition. And then you're able to market the heck out of that. And clients come to you because they know that you can execute a specific type and level of work. So I think there's still merit in being able to do that. What a good pun. Still merit. You've got the why, you've got the what. Let's talk about the how. What takes a good image to a competition level worthy image? The number one thing is gonna be impact. Can you make a viewer look at that image and go, right? Can you give them a level of emotion that sticks with them beyond the initial viewing of the image? The best way to do that is through storytelling. And you don't always have to know the whole story, but I love a good impactful image that tells a story or lets the interpreter kind of tell their own story within that level of imagery, right? The next thing is gonna be watching your lighting, right? So when you are looking at an image, you need to make sure that you're paying attention to not only your shadows, but your highlights. You don't want to lose detail in either. If your image is too dark or too light, it's not going to be at the level that competitions are asking for. You need to be able to find detail in both. That shows balanced, even light, right? Correctly exposed. Now, I know that sometimes rules are there to break them, right? You're gonna maybe not have the perfect looking histogram, but you're gonna have an insanely impactful image. These are all weighted risks that you have to take, but the one thing that they are always going to unanimously agree on, you should be able to have detail in both your highlights and your lowlights. So make sure that your light is evenly balanced and you're not going one way over the other. Another one, composition. You need to be able to look at an image and have it balance to the eye. You need to be able to eliminate distractions, get the eye to focus exactly where it's supposed to go. Part of that is back to your lighting, right? So the easiest little trick in the book is to flip your image upside down, close your eyes for 10 seconds, and open your eyes. Where does your eye go? Does it go right to the subject as you intended, or is it going somewhere else? That would be a distraction, right? Do lines lead into your subject to be able to create directionally draw interest through your photo? Are you able to use horizons effectively, or are horizon lines going through heads? That's another big one. Does it have enough negative space in the portrait to create something interesting, or is it too close? Or have you created not effective negative space, and does the portrait not need as much breathing room as you think it needs? All are pieces to creating a compositionally strong image. There are plenty of times when panoramic images do not make sense because they do not really have the dramatic impact that a very close-up portrait will have. Alternatively, there are times when a very close portrait needs a little bit of breathing room. In fact, I just told one of my students, your goal is to back up. Traditionally, you can shoot wide, crop in, but just make sure you're not losing a lot of detail when you do that. So all things to think about in terms of your composition. And if you've got one image and you've taken it and it looks good, challenge yourself to find a new composition before you get up and move, or before you move your model, move yourself to see if there's any other stronger angles within that pose that make sense for competition. Okay, another big piece is color. Are you balancing your color effectively to make sure it's not distracting and in fact enhances the image? I think in digital photography there has been this debate for however long about dark and moody, light and airy, punchy colors or muted colors, and all of that is important to defining a style, but when it comes to competition, it's gotta enhance the image and not create uneven skin tones, which is a big no-no. So you wanna make sure that your color balance is correct, even, and enhances the image and doesn't distract away from it. And I know at least with international portrait competition, the presentation is going to matter. Are you matting your images even if they're presented digitally? And does that presentation enhance the image or distract from it? And in print competition, this becomes even bigger. I mean, I have watched in print competition at WPPI, it was kind of like the first time I really understood like how impactful sports could be, I guess, because you're watching these judges like get right up on the face of this portrait and right up, and they're saying like, I wouldn't really print it on that paper again, or this paper actually really enhanced the image. It's the perfect image for that. All of that's gonna matter. So make sure you're looking back at your presentation. Did it enhance the image or did it distract? You're gonna see a lot of elements of distraction versus enhance when you're going through these elements, right? Ultimately, what you will find is photographing competitively is less of a photographic challenge and more about getting out of your own head, pushing the limits creatively, and making something that is uniquely a piece of art. And yes, it's not going to land with everybody, but no art should. It should be polarizing. It should create something like a feeling in people. Like that and you'll watch competitions and you'll watch the stream and images will come up like that where you go, oh, and like it makes you like physically have a feeling in your chest. You should be able to do that with your images as you're moving yourself through and up competitively. That is the goal of competition in the long run. It's not to earn more clients. It's not to have marketable material, although you certainly will create marketable material. And it's not to, earn the fancy title for anybody else but yourself. Ultimately, I want you to be able to push your creative limits, and I want you to be able to look at entering these local competitions so that way you are able to create images that you look back on and your friends and family look back on and say, wow, those were amazing. Because that helps you create the heirlooms for clients that they will never ever forget. That's the goal, right? That's the gig, is creating images that still take clients' breath away many years later when the fashions have changed and the trends have changed. It is something that they look back on and say, wow, we did that. We were a part of that, right? And photographing competitively will help you do that. So I hope this inspires you to maybe go out on a limb and do something creatively, maybe even something competitively. Let me know in the comments, are you gonna do something local with your friends and family? Are you going to go maybe look at some publications this week? Are you going to be entering the new Merit Image Review process or Portrait Masters? Let me know. If you need any help, feel free to give me a ring. like and subscribe. I don't know. I'm still not good at this whole YouTuber thing. But if you are in need of help or, you know, are curious about joining more competitions, join my Facebook group. We are in there all the time and we can help critique and, you know, move things around. And I am not currently any kind of juror anywhere. So it's just like my unfettered opinion, but you've got some really, really smart people in there that are not me, that also have even higher titles than me too. So we can all help you for sure. But feel free to join my Facebook group. If you need me, you know where to find me. Follow me on all other platforms. And again, go out there, do something great. And you know, I still haven't figured out a great sign off, but hope you enjoy this.